The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss and Tae-jin stepped onto the platform of Celestia Prime Station. He walked slowly, dragging his left leg just a bit with each step. Around him, students from dozens of alien species rushed past, chattering in languages that sounded like music, static, or thunder. Nobody looked at the quiet human limping through the crowd. Tae-jin preferred it that way. The Galactic Institute of Advanced Studies towered above him, a massive structure of glass and metal that seemed to touch the artificial sky of the station. Holographic signs floated in the air, pointing to different departments: xenobiology, galactic law, diplomatic relations. He had enrolled in all three, hoping that studying would help him understand the galaxy better. Hoping it would help him forget, he found his dormitory after getting lost twice. The door recognized his biosignature and slid open. The room was small but clean, with a window showing the stars beyond the station. Tae-jin dropped his single bag on the bed and sat down heavily. His leg ached. It always did when he was tired. Outside his window he could see hundreds of ships coming and going. 30 years ago, humans had joined the Galactic Council. 30 years since Earth had stopped fighting and started learning. 30 years since people like him had been told their services were no longer needed. A loud crash from the hallway made him tense. Old habits. His hand moved to his hip where a weapon would have been, but there was nothing there. There hadn't been for years. "Watch where you're going, human," a voice screeched from outside. Tae-jin opened his door and saw a young human girl on the floor, books scattered around her. Standing over her was a tall creature that looked like a mantis made of blue metal. Its compound eyes gleamed with amusement. 3 more aliens stood behind it, laughing. "I'm sorry," the girl said, scrambling to pick up her books. "I didn't see you." "Of course you didn't," the mantis-like alien said. "Primitive species, weak eyes, weak everything." It kicked one of her books down the hallway. Tae-jin watched. The girl looked up and saw him standing in his doorway. Her eyes pleaded for help. He looked away and closed his door quietly. He heard her crying as she gathered her things. He heard the aliens laughing as they walked away. He sat on his bed and stared at his hands. They were shaking. The next morning, orientation began in the Grand Hall. Thousands of students filled the massive auditorium. Tae-jin sat in the back row as far from everyone as possible. He counted 12 other humans in the room. They all sat together in one section, looking nervous and out of place. The mantis alien from yesterday walked in with his group. He was loud and confident, arms gesturing wildly as he told a story. When he saw the humans, he pointed and said something. His friends laughed. Even from across the room, Tae-jin could feel the humans shrinking in their seats. "Welcome to the Galactic Institute," a holographic figure appeared at the front. "You represent 147 species from across known space. Here you will learn to work together, to understand each other, and to build a better future." Pretty words, Tae-jin thought. But words didn't stop the bullying in the hallway. After orientation, students flooded into the cafeteria. Tae-jin got his food and found an empty table in the corner. He had almost finished eating when someone sat down across from him. It was the girl from yesterday. Up close, he could see she had been crying recently. Her eyes were red. "Hi," she said. "I'm Ji-won. You're in my dormitory building." Tae-jin nodded but said nothing. "Thanks for—" She started, then stopped. "Actually, never mind. You didn't do anything yesterday." "No," Tae-jin said quietly. "I didn't." "Why not?" Ji-won asked. There was no anger in her voice, just confusion. "That guy Hyunwoo, he's a Valkyrian. They're strong, but humans can fight too. We're not that weak. It's better to avoid trouble," Tae-jin said. "Better for who?" Ji-won stood up. "Never mind. I thought maybe another human would understand. But you're just scared like everyone says we are." She left before he could respond. Not that he had a response ready. The first week of classes was difficult. Not because the material was hard, but because of the atmosphere. Professor Krell, a tall reptilian creature with silver scales, taught galactic diplomacy. He clearly did not like human students. "Humans," he said during the first lesson, "joined the council only 3 decades ago. You are the youngest species here, the most primitive. You have much to learn from your betters." In the back row, Tae-jin wrote down every word. He noticed Ji-won sitting a few rows ahead, her shoulders tight with tension. "Tae-jin," Professor Krell suddenly called out, "since you're taking notes so carefully, perhaps you can answer this question. What is the primary principle of interspecies conflict resolution?" Every eye turned to look at him. Taijin stood slowly, his leg making him unsteady for a moment. Mutual understanding, he said, his voice flat. Both parties must believe the other is acting in good faith. Violence should be the last option, used only when communication fails. Professor Krell looked surprised, then disappointed. Correct. A textbook answer. Sit down. As Taijin sat, he heard Hyunwoo whisper to his friends nearby. Typical human. Knows the words but has no spine. Their whole species gave up fighting the moment we arrived. No honor, no strength. The words should have made Taijin angry. Instead, he felt tired. If only they knew. If only they understood what humanity had been like before the Council. What people like him had done in the name of survival. But they would never know. That history was classified. Locked away. The Galactic Council had decided that humanity's violent past was potentially destabilizing information. Better to let the galaxy think humans were weak and peaceful. Better for everyone. That night, Taijin couldn't sleep. His leg ached worse than usual, and his mind kept showing him memories he didn't want to see. At midnight, he gave up trying to rest and headed to the Institute's gym. The gym was empty at this hour. Taijin stood in the center of the training mat and began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. His leg didn't hurt anymore. The limp disappeared. His body remembered movements he had practiced 10,000 times. Strike, block, pivot, sweep. Silent and deadly. He didn't notice Jiwon standing in the doorway, frozen in shock. She had come to the gym to cry in private where nobody would see. Instead, she saw Taijin moving like water, like shadow, like nothing she had ever seen before. He was a different person. No limp, no hesitation. Just pure frightening skill. Then he turned and saw her. Immediately the limp returned. His shoulders slumped. He looked away. I couldn't sleep, he said quietly, walking toward the exit. As he passed her, Jiwon saw his arms. His sleeves had rolled up during training. Scars covered his skin. Not a few scars. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Each one told a story of violence survived. Who are you? She whispered. But Taijin was already gone, limping down the hallway like the quiet, broken student everyone thought he was. Jiwon stood alone in the empty gym, her mind racing. Something was very wrong here. Or very right. She didn't know which yet. 3 weeks passed and things got worse. Hyunwoo seemed to have made it his personal mission to make every human student miserable. He tripped them in hallways. He spoke over them in class. He spread rumors that humans had only been accepted into the Institute because the Council felt sorry for them. Pity admissions, he called them loudly in the cafeteria. Not one of them earned their place here. His friends laughed and agreed. A Korthian student named Daijung, who was built like a mountain of muscle, seemed especially eager to follow Hyunwoo's lead. Wherever Hyunwoo went, Daijung followed, cracking his knuckles and glaring at any human who dared to look their way. Jiwon tried to ignore them. She focused on her studies, kept her head down, and avoided trouble. But trouble found her anyway. Someone damaged her study terminal, erasing a major project the night before it was due. She had to start over, working until dawn, and still turned it in late. Professor Krell gave her a failing grade without even looking at her work. Humans must learn punctuality, he said coldly. In the galaxy, being late can mean death. Jiwon wanted to explain what happened, but she saw the look in his eyes. He wouldn't believe her. Or worse, he wouldn't care. She saw Taijin every day. He attended classes, took notes, and spoke to no one. She wanted to talk to him about what she had seen in the gym, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, with eyes that seemed very old and very sad, like he was apologizing for something she didn't understand yet. The practical exams started in the 4th week. Students had to demonstrate skills in zero-gravity environments, working in teams to solve problems. Jiwon was partnered with 2 other humans and an alien from a species she didn't recognize. Their task was simple: navigate through a zero-gravity obstacle course while carrying medical supplies to a simulated emergency. It should have been easy. But Daejung was in the chamber at the same time, doing a separate exercise. As Jiwon floated past him, he suddenly pushed off a wall and slammed into her, accidentally. Jiwon went spinning, crashing into a bulkhead. Pain exploded in her shoulder. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The medical supplies scattered everywhere. Oh, sorry, Daejung said, not sounding sorry at all. Didn't see you there. Must be because humans are so small and weak. The instructor helped Jiwon out of the chamber. Her shoulder was dislocated. The medical staff had to pop it back into place. She screamed when they did, tears streaming down her face. Tae-jin was waiting outside the medical bay when she emerged, her arm in a sling. "I heard what happened," he said quietly. "Of course you did," Jiwon said bitterly. "Everyone did. It's all anyone can talk about. How clumsy the human girl is. How we don't belong here. That's not true, isn't it?" Jiwon felt anger rising in her chest, hot and sharp. "What does it matter anyway? You won't do anything about it. Nobody will. We're just supposed to take it because we're the youngest species, the weakest species, the species that everyone pities." "Jiwon, why are you even here?" she interrupted. "I saw you in the gym, Tae-jin. I saw how you moved. You're not some regular student. You're something else. But you act like you're nothing. Like you're nobody. Why?" Tae-jin was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Because fighting back would be worse. For them, Jiwon didn't understand. She was too angry, too hurt, too tired. "That doesn't make any sense. You're just making excuses because you're scared." She walked away, cradling her injured arm. Behind her, Tae-jin stood alone in the hallway, staring at nothing. The next day in the cafeteria, everything came to a head. Jiwon was getting lunch when Hyunwoo stepped in front of her. His friends formed a circle around them. Students from dozens of species stopped eating to watch. "Hey everyone," Hyunwoo announced loudly. "I have a question for the human girl." "Jiwon, right?" She didn't respond. She tried to move around him, but Daejung blocked her path. "My question is," Hyunwoo continued, "why are humans even in the institute? You're physically weak. You're technologically backward. Your species has been in space for less than a century. What makes you think you belong here with real civilizations?" "Leave me alone," Jiwon said, but her voice shook. "See? Even their voices are weak." Hyunwoo turned to address the crowd. "Humans are a mistake. The council made an error letting them join. They should go back to their little planet and stay there." Something moved in the crowd. Tae-jin stepped forward. His limp seemed worse than usual today. He walked slowly until he stood next to Jiwon. "That's enough," Tae-jin said quietly. Hyunwoo's compound eyes gleamed with excitement. "Oh, look. The human male wants to defend his friend. How noble. How primitive." He stepped closer to Tae-jin. "What are you going to do about it, cripple?" "Nothing," Tae-jin said. "I'm asking you to stop, please." The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Even some of the human students looked away in shame. "Please," Hyunwoo mocked. "Humans are pathetic." He turned to his friends. "You know what? I have an idea. A friendly competition. Me versus this human. 3 rounds. Physical combat, tactical simulation, and survival skills." "I decline," Tae-jin said immediately. "Of course you do, because you know you'll lose. Because humans are inferior in every way." Hyunwoo picked up his drink and threw it in Tae-jin's face. The liquid was cold and sticky. It dripped down Tae-jin's face and clothes. He didn't move. Didn't even wipe it away. He just stood there dripping while the entire cafeteria watched. Someone was recording. Multiple someones. Their devices captured every moment of humiliation. "Weak," Hyunwoo said with satisfaction. "Just like the rest of your species. That's enough." A voice boomed across the cafeteria. Professor Krell walked through the crowd, his silver scales gleaming. But he wasn't looking at Hyunwoo with disapproval. He was looking at Tae-jin with cold calculation. "If Hyunwoo wishes to issue a challenge, then it should be official," Professor Krell announced. "I am making this competition part of the Interspecies Cooperation Final. All students involved in this incident will participate. It is mandatory for graduation." Tae-jin closed his eyes. "Professor, please, are you refusing a direct academic requirement, student?" "No, sir." "Then it's settled. The competition will take place over the next 3 weeks. 1 round per week." Professor Krell smiled, showing all his teeth. "This will be educational for everyone." The crowd cheered. Bets were already being placed. Nobody gave the human any chance of winning. Jiwon grabbed Tae-jin's arm as they left the cafeteria. "I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't—" "It's not your fault," Tae-jin said. He finally wiped the drink from his face. "This was always going to happen eventually." "What do you mean?" "People like Hyunwoo, they need someone to feel superior to. They need someone to hurt because it makes them feel strong. I've seen it before. Many times. So what do we do?" Taejin looked at her with those sad old eyes. I do what they want. I compete, and I try very hard not to be what I used to be. That night, Ji-won couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Taejin's words, about the way he moved in the gym, about the scars on his arms, about the strange way he said, I've seen it before. Her mother worked for Earth Defense, low-level admin, but she had access to certain databases. Ji-won wasn't supposed to use her mother's credentials. It was against the rules, but she had to know. She logged into the Earth military archives and searched for Taejin's name. The file that came up was mostly black bars, redacted, classified, but there were fragments. Pieces of information that hadn't been completely erased. Operation Silent Blade, Infiltration Specialist, 72 confirmed eliminations, Psychological evaluation, unsuitable for civilian reintegration, and at the top of the file, in bold letters, Ghost 7. Ji-won's hands shook as she read. Ghost 7, not a name, a designation. Like he wasn't even a person, just a tool, a weapon. She looked at his photo in the file. It was Taejin, but younger. His eyes were different, harder, emptier. This was the person she had seen in the gym. This was who he used to be. The file had a final note at the bottom. Subject retired from active duty. Mandatory rehabilitation. Current status integration attempt in progress, monitoring required. Ji-won closed the file and sat in darkness, her heart pounding. Hyunwoo and his friends had no idea what they had done. They had challenged a ghost. A weapon that had tried to become human again. And now they were forcing him to remember what he used to be. The week before the first round felt like forever. Everyone at the institute talked about the competition. Betting pools grew larger each day. The odds were 100-1 against Taejin. Easy money, students said. The human doesn't stand a chance. Ji-won found Taejin in the library late one night. He sat alone at a table reading books about Valkyrian anatomy and combat styles. She sat down across from him without asking. I know who you are, she said quietly. What you are? Ghost 7. Taejin didn't look up from his book. That person doesn't exist anymore. But he did exist. You were part of something. Something classified. I was part of humanity's Black Ops division during the Contact Wars, Taejin said, finally meeting her eyes. Before the council accepted us, when we were fighting just to survive. The file said 72 confirmed. Don't, Taejin interrupted. Please don't say the number. I'm trying to forget it. Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Is that why you're here? Why you're studying diplomacy and xenobiology? I spent 10 years learning how to kill. I want to spend the rest of my life learning how to prevent killing. How to understand why we fight, so maybe I can help stop it. He closed his book, but Hyunwoo and Professor Krell are making that difficult. You could hurt him easily, couldn't you? Hyunwoo, yes, will you? Taejin was quiet for a long time. I'll do what I have to do, but I'll try very hard to just do enough to win. Nothing more. The day of the first round arrived. The institute's main arena was packed with thousands of students. Every species in the school had sent representatives to watch. The betting pools had reached insane amounts. Ji-won sat in the front row, her stomach twisted with anxiety. She had told the other human students what she learned, but none of them believed her. Taejin, they said. The guy who limps. No way. The arena was a simple circle 50 meters across. Hard floor. No weapons, no armor. Just two fighters and the rules. First to yield, knockout, or be thrown out of the ring loses. Hyunwoo entered first, and the crowd went wild. He wore ceremonial Valkyrian combat gear, blue and silver plates that covered his chitinous body. He performed traditional war poses, his blade-like arms cutting through the air. His people had been warriors for 10,000 years. Fighting was in their blood. Then Taejin entered. He wore simple training clothes, gray and plain. He limped as he walked to the center of the ring. The crowd booed. Someone threw trash at him. He didn't react, just stood there waiting. Look at him, the announcer said. The human doesn't even have proper form. This may be the shortest match in Institute history. Professor Krell stood at the judge's position looking satisfied. Hyunwoo's friends cheered and screamed insults at Taejin. Ji-won gripped the edge of her seat so hard her knuckles turned white. The starting bell rang. Hyunwoo charged immediately. Valkyrians were fast, much faster than they looked. His blade arms came down in powerful strikes that would have broken bones. Taejin stepped to the side. The movement was small, Minimal, but perfectly timed. Hyunwoo's strike hit nothing but air. He spun and attacked again. Taejin swayed back just far enough to avoid the blow. Again and again, Hyunwoo attacked. Each time Taejin simply wasn't there. He didn't block, didn't counter. Just moved, his body flowing like water around every strike. The crowd started to murmur. This wasn't what they expected. Stand still and fight. Hyunwoo screamed, frustrated. I am fighting, Taejin said quietly. 2 minutes passed. Hyunwoo was getting tired, his attacks becoming wilder. Taejin still had that slight limp when he moved, favoring his left leg, but somehow he was always exactly where he needed to be. Enough, Hyunwoo roared. He put all his strength into one massive overhead strike, both blade arms coming down like guillotines. And then everything changed. Taejin's limp disappeared. His eyes went cold and focused. He stepped forward inside Hyunwoo's guard, moving faster than most of the crowd could follow. 3 strikes, precise, controlled. Taejin's fingers hit 3 points on Hyunwoo's carapace that nobody knew were vulnerable. Hyunwoo's left side went completely numb. His arm stopped responding. His leg collapsed. He crashed to the ground, shock and pain on his face. The arena went silent. Before anyone could process what happened, Taejin was behind Hyunwoo. His hand was positioned at the joint where the Valkyrian's head met his neck, the one weak spot in their armor. It was a killing position. One strike would sever the neural cluster. Taejin held that position for 3 seconds. His hand didn't shake. His breathing was calm. He could end Hyunwoo's life right now, and everyone watching knew it. Then Taejin stepped back. He offered his hand to help Hyunwoo up. Yield, Taejin said softly. Please. Hyunwoo stared at him, compound eyes wide with terror and understanding. This human could have killed him, should have killed him by warrior traditions. But instead he was offering mercy. I yield, Hyunwoo whispered. The crowd exploded. Some cheered, some booed. Most just sat in shocked silence. This wasn't possible. Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. Professor Krell reviewed the footage on his datapad, his face growing paler with each replay. The fight had lasted less than 3 minutes, but the video showed something incredible. There were 17 moments, 17 separate instances where Taejin could have permanently injured or killed Hyunwoo. He had chosen not to. What is that human? Someone in the crowd asked. Ji-won knew the answer. He wasn't just a human. He was a weapon that had learned to think, to choose, to show mercy. He was everything the galaxy feared about humanity, wrapped in a choice to be better. In the medical bay, doctors checked Hyunwoo's injuries. The nerve strikes were precise and temporary. Feeling would return to his limbs in a few hours. Taejin had known exactly how to disable without causing permanent harm. Hyunwoo sat on the examination table, staring at his hands. His friends gathered around him, angry and confused. He got lucky, Daejong said. Next time? There won't be a next time, Hyunwoo said quietly. You didn't see what I saw. You didn't feel it. Feel what? Control. Perfect control. He could have torn me apart. Hyunwoo looked at Daejong. That human is more dangerous than any warrior I've ever met. And he chose not to hurt me. Why? Nobody had an answer. That evening, Taejin sat on his dormitory bed, his hands shaking. He had done it. He had fought without killing, without causing permanent harm. But it had been so close, so terrifyingly close. For those 3 seconds when his hand was at Hyunwoo's neck, the old training had screamed at him to finish it. Eliminate the threat. That's what Ghost 7 would have done, but he wasn't Ghost 7 anymore. He was Taejin, a student, a person trying to be better. A knock on his door made him jump. Ji-won stood outside, holding 2 cups of hot tea. Thought you might need this, she said. They sat together in silence for a while, drinking tea and watching the stars through his window. Everyone's talking about you, Ji-won finally said. They're scared. They don't understand what happened. Good, Taejin said. Maybe they'll leave us alone now. I don't think so. Hyunwoo's friends are angry. Really angry. They think you humiliated him. I tried not to. I just wanted to win and be done with it. Ji-won looked at him carefully. You're not like other humans, are you? I mean, besides the ghost thing, you think differently. I think like someone who's seen too much, Taejin said. I think like someone who knows that winning a fight is easy. Winning without hurting anyone? That's the hard part. That's what takes real strength. Will you be okay? For the next 2 rounds? Taejin didn't answer right away. His hands had stopped shaking, but he felt tired deep in his bones. "I don't know," he admitted. "Each time I fight, it gets a little easier to remember who I used to be. That scares me more than any opponent." But what Tae-jin didn't know was that Hyunwoo's friends weren't going to wait for the second round. They were angry, humiliated, and they wanted revenge. Dae-jung convinced two others to help him. Late that night, after Ji-won left, they waited in an empty corridor near Tae-jin's dormitory. They had weapons this time. Plasma pistols set to stun. No rules, no judges, just payback. They heard Tae-jin's limping footsteps approaching. Dae-jung stepped out into the corridor, blocking his path. "No audience this time, human," Dae-jung growled, raising his weapon. "Let's see how tough you really are." Behind him, the other two aliens stepped out, their weapons also drawn. Tae-jin stopped walking. He looked at the three armed aliens in front of him, and something in his expression changed. The sadness in his eyes was replaced by something else, something cold and calculating. "You don't want to do this," Tae-jin said quietly. "Yes, we do." Dae-jung fired his plasma pistol, and Tae-jin moved. The plasma bolt missed Tae-jin by centimeters. He had already moved before Dae-jung pulled the trigger. Reading the tension in the alien's muscles, the angle of the weapon, what happened next took 15 seconds. Tae-jin closed the distance to Dae-jung in 2 steps. His hand struck the Korthian's wrist with surgical precision, hitting the nerve cluster. The weapon clattered to the floor. Before Dae-jung could react, Tae-jin struck again, this time at his shoulder. The massive alien's arm went numb and useless. The second alien fired from the side. Tae-jin grabbed Dae-jung and spun him around like a shield. The plasma bolt hit Dae-jung in the chest, stunning him. Tae-jin let the unconscious Korthian fall and moved toward the second attacker. This alien was smaller, faster. He tried to backpedal while firing. Tae-jin ducked under the shots, grabbed the alien's weapon arm and redirected it toward the third attacker. The aliens ended up shooting each other. Within 15 seconds of the first shot, all 3 attackers were on the ground. Conscious but unable to move, their nervous systems temporarily disrupted by their own weapons. Tae-jin stood over them, breathing hard. His hands were shaking again, not from fear but from the effort of holding back. The old training had taken over, and it had whispered dark things to him. "Finish them. Make sure they never threaten you again." That's what survival means, but he hadn't listened to those whispers. He had stopped. Alarms blared through the corridor. Someone had triggered emergency security. Heavy footsteps approached from both directions. Ji-won rounded the corner first, running. She had heard the weapons fire from her room and had immediately hit the emergency alarm. She stopped when she saw the scene. 3 aliens on the ground, Tae-jin standing over them, small burn marks on his clothes from near-miss plasma shots. "What happened?" she gasped. "They ambushed me," Tae-jin said quietly. "I defended myself. Security arrived next, 6 armed guards. They took in the situation quickly. 3 aliens with weapons, 1 unarmed human with minor injuries. The evidence was clear, but the guards still looked suspicious. The human attacked us," Dae-jung groaned from the floor. "We were just defending ourselves. With weapons?" Ji-won snapped. "In a dormitory corridor?" "Enough," the head guard said. "We'll review the security footage." They did. The footage showed everything. The ambush, the weapons fire, Tae-jin's defensive response. It also showed something else. The incredible speed and skill with which Tae-jin moved. The way he disarmed 3 armed opponents without killing or permanently injuring any of them. The Institute's administration watched the footage with growing concern. So did several members of the Galactic Council who had been monitoring the competition. One of them requested immediate transport to Celestia Prime. Ambassador Takora arrived the next day. She was Luminari, an ancient species of energy beings who could take physical form when needed. She appeared as a floating figure of light, with features that suggested wisdom and power beyond understanding. She met with Tae-jin privately in a secure room. He stood when she entered, showing proper respect. "You may sit, Ghost 7, she said, her voice like music. "Or do you prefer Tae-jin now? You know who I am. I was the Council observer during humanity's integration trials. I saw what Ghost Unit was capable of." Takora's light dimmed slightly. "You were the one who infiltrated the Krelthar war camp, weren't you? Walked in alone, past 500 warriors, and walked out with the warlord's head." Tae-jin said nothing. That operation ended a war that had threatened to pull the Council into direct conflict. Ghost Unit saved millions of lives. But the council decided that humanity's military capabilities were too dangerous to make public. So they classified everything and forced all operatives into retirement. They were right to, Taijin said. We were weapons. Just weapons, not people. Is that what you believe? It's what I was trained to believe. Kill the target. Complete the mission. Nothing else matters. He looked at his hands. I've been trying to unlearn that for 8 years. Trying to be human instead of a tool. Takora moved closer. And now these students have forced you to remember your training. How do you feel about that? Angry, scared, tired. Taijin met her gaze. But also grateful. Grateful? Because I proved something to myself. When those 3 attacked me, the old training took over. It would have been easy to kill them. Natural even, but I didn't. I chose not to. That means I really have changed. I'm not Ghost 7 anymore. Takora was silent for a moment, her light pulsing thoughtfully. The council will want a full report. This incident, combined with the arena fight, has raised concerns. Some council members are worried that humans have been hiding their true capabilities. We have, Taijin said simply. You ordered us to, I know, and I argued for that decision. But now I wonder if we made a mistake. Perhaps the galaxy needs to understand that humanity is not weak. You are dangerous, yes, but you are also capable of choosing peace. That combination might be valuable. She left, promising to handle the political aspects. Professor Krell was called to a meeting with her next. The meeting did not go well for the professor. You approved a competition without fully investigating the participants, Takora said. Her voice cold. You put students at risk because of your prejudice against humans. I didn't know, Professor Krell protested. The human's file was classified. How could I know he was a trained operative? You knew he was a student trying to learn. You knew he asked to decline the challenge. You forced it anyway because you wanted to see humans humiliated. Takora's light flared brighter. Your student isn't some civilian who learned to fight. He is a weapon trying to learn to be a person. And you nearly broke him. Professor Krell went very pale. What was he? What unit? Ghost Unit, Black Operations. The humans the council feared most. Takora showed him classified footage from the contact wars. Footage of Ghost 7 moving through enemy positions like death itself, silent and unstoppable. Professor Krell watched in horror. This was the quiet student who limped to class? This creature of shadow and precision? The second round of your competition will proceed, Takora said. But you will observe only. I will be judging, and you will begin treating all students with respect, or you will be removed from this institute. The second round was a tactical simulation. 2 commanders, each controlling small forces trying to achieve objectives in a complex scenario. The goal was to show strategic thinking and leadership. The atmosphere was completely different now. Word had spread about the corridor incident, about the footage showing Taijin's true abilities. Students watched him with new eyes. Fear, respect, and curiosity mixed together. Hyunwoo attended, sitting in the front row. He had spent days thinking about the arena fight, analyzing every movement. He had also reviewed footage of the corridor ambush. The human's skill was beyond anything he had imagined. The simulation began. Hyunwoo commanded blue forces, Taijin commanded red. The scenario was a hostage rescue in hostile territory. Hyunwoo used standard military academy doctrine. Secure perimeter, gather intelligence, execute coordinated assault. It was textbook perfect, the kind of approach that would earn high marks. Taijin's approach was completely different. His forces didn't assault the main compound. Instead, they created distractions at multiple points, drawing enemy forces away from the hostages. He used psychological warfare, making the enemy think they were surrounded by a much larger force. When the enemy commander committed his reserves to defend against phantom attacks, Taijin sent a tiny team of 2 soldiers through an unguarded maintenance tunnel. The hostages were secured before Hyunwoo's forces even reached the compound walls. The simulation ended with Taijin's victory in 32 minutes. Hyunwoo's plan would have taken 90 minutes and resulted in multiple casualties. The audience sat in stunned silence. Explain your tactics, Ambassador Takora said to Taijin. Direct assault causes casualties, Taijin said. The enemy expects strength against strength, so I showed them strength where I had none, and used speed and stealth where they weren't looking. Make them fight ghosts while the real mission succeeds. Ghost tactics, Takora said. Special operations doctrine. Yes, Ambassador. Hyunwoo stood up slowly. He walked down to where Taijin stood and looked at him for a long moment. I need to know, Hyunwoo said quietly. How many? How many missions did you complete? Taejin's expression didn't change. Enough to learn that I never want to complete another one. And the number in your file? 72? Every single one was necessary to protect humanity's survival. And every single one haunts me. Hyunwoo felt something shift inside him. He had thought this human was prey. But Taejin wasn't prey or predator. He was something else. A warrior who had chosen to lay down his weapons, who fought against his own training every day to be peaceful. I'm sorry, Hyunwoo said. For everything. I didn't understand. Nobody does, Taejin said. That's what the council wanted. Better to let everyone think humans are weak and harmless. Better for the galaxy. Is it, though? Hyunwoo asked. Or is it better for everyone to understand that humans can be dangerous but choose not to be? It was a good question. One that Taejin had been asking himself for 8 years. The third round was supposed to be simple. A survival exercise in the Institute's biodome. A massive enclosed wilderness area where students would demonstrate their ability to work with nature. But something went wrong. 3 days before the exercise, the containment fields in Sector 7 failed. Apex predators from multiple worlds, kept in separate environments for study, broke through their barriers. Thaxian razor wolves, Korthian deathstalkers, and a juvenile Valkyrian queen serpent all escaped into the main biodome. The Institute tried to evacuate, but a group of students on a field trip were trapped inside. 12 students from various species, including G1. The terrain was too dangerous for normal rescue operations. The ravines and cave systems made transport impossible. The predators were hunting. Station security gathered outside the biodome entrance, looking at maps and arguing. They were trained for station emergencies, not wilderness survival against alien predators. We need specialists, the security chief said. Contact the military. The nearest military unit is 6 hours away, his assistant replied. Those students don't have 6 hours. Ambassador Takora stood nearby, watching the security feed from inside the biodome. She could see heat signatures. The students huddled in a cave system, predators circling nearby. You have a specialist here, she said quietly. One who has survived behind enemy lines on 17 different worlds. Everyone looked at her. The human, she said. Taejin. One human against multiple apex predators? The security chief scoffed. That's suicide. For a normal human, yes, but he is not normal. Takora pulled up Taejin's classified file on her personal display. Ghost 7 specialized in hostile environment infiltration and extraction. This is exactly what he was trained for. He's retired. A civilian? Ask him anyway. They found Taejin in the library studying as if nothing was wrong. When they explained the situation, he stood up immediately. I'll go, he said. No hesitation. No fear. Wait, the security chief said. Council regulations say you can't go alone. You need a team. Before anyone could volunteer, Hyunwoo stepped forward. I'll go. Then Dae-jung, looking ashamed but determined. I'll go too. I owe the human a debt. Professor Krell, surprising everyone, also volunteered. I created this situation with my prejudice. I must help fix it. Taejin looked at them, these aliens who had bullied and challenged him. Now they wanted to risk their lives alongside him. All right, he said. But inside the biodome, you follow my orders exactly. No questions, no delays. Lives depend on it. Can you do that? They all nodded. Then let's bring those students home. The team entered the biodome through a service entrance. Immediately, the environment changed. The artificial sky was dark with storm clouds. Rain fell in sheets. The jungle was thick and hostile. Taejin moved differently here. The limp disappeared completely. He crouched low, reading the ground, the vegetation, the air. Within minutes, he found tracks. Razor wolf pack, he said, pointing to disturbed earth. 6 of them. They passed through here 3 hours ago, heading east. He pointed to scratches on a tree. Deathstalker went north. We're lucky. The serpent's territory is west, away from the students. How do you know all this? Hyunwoo asked. Because I've tracked worse things than animals. I've tracked trained soldiers who didn't want to be found. Taejin stood up. Stay in single file. Step where I step. Don't touch anything unless I tell you it's safe. They moved through the jungle like ghosts. Taejin taught them to walk silently, to use the rain to cover their noise. He showed them which plants to avoid, which paths to take. Hyunwoo realized he was seeing something rare, a human in his natural element. doing what evolution had designed his species to do best. Humans were not the strongest species, not the fastest, but they were persistent, adaptable, and terrifyingly intelligent. They found razor wolf tracks again, fresher this time. Taijin held up his fist and everyone stopped. "They're close," he whispered. "Maybe 50 meters ahead. What do we do?" Taijung asked. "We don't need to fight them. We need to make them leave." Taijin pulled out a small device from his pack. This emits ultrasonic frequencies. Different species react differently. For razor wolves, certain frequencies hurt their ears. He activated the device. 30 seconds later, they heard howling and the sound of creatures running away. "You're not even going to fight them?" Professor Krell asked, disappointed despite himself. "Why would I? Killing should always be the last option. If I can solve a problem without violence, that's what I do." Taijin started moving again. "I've killed enough for one lifetime." They found the cave system where the students were hiding. But there was a problem. The queen serpent had found them too. The massive creature, easily 20 meters long, coiled around the cave entrance. Its sensors detected the students inside, but the opening was too small for it to enter. It was patient. It would wait until thirst or hunger drove the students out. "We need a plan," Yunwoo said. "That thing's hide is almost impenetrable." "We don't need to hurt it," Taijin said. "We need to move it. Make it think there's easier prey elsewhere." He explained his plan. It was risky and required perfect timing. Professor Krell would use his communications equipment to create sonic disturbances at multiple points, confusing the serpent's senses. Daijung and Hyunwoo would use their natural abilities to create physical barriers and diversions, and Taijin would face the serpent directly, using his movement and knowledge to guide it away from the cave. "That's insane," Daijung said. "You'll be killed. I've done this before. Different creature, same principle." Taijin checked his equipment. "Trust me, or more importantly, trust yourselves. You're all capable of this. You just need to work together." The plan began. Professor Krell activated his equipment, creating ultrasonic pulses that made the serpent's head turn in confusion. Daejung and Hyunwoo moved to flanking positions, using debris and vegetation to create barriers that would guide the serpent's movement. Then Taijin stepped into the open. Directly in front of the massive creature, the serpent's eyes locked onto him. It recognized prey, small and vulnerable. It struck, fangs extended fast as lightning. Taijin rolled under the strike. The serpent's head smashed into the rock where he had been standing. It reared back, confused. How had such small prey moved so quickly? Taijin moved again, this time deliberately showing himself to the creature's right side. The serpent turned, following. He was leading it step by step away from the cave entrance. Behind the serpent, Yunwoo and Daijung quickly moved to the cave. They pulled students out one by one. Jiwon was the first, her eyes wide with terror and relief. "Taijin," she gasped. "He's buying you time," Hyunwoo said. "Move, all of you, move." The serpent struck again and again. Each time Taijin was a fraction of a second faster. He rolled, ducked, leaped. His movements were precise, controlled. He was dancing with death, and somehow impossibly he was winning. But he was getting tired. A strike came too close, grazing his side. Pain exploded through his ribs. He stumbled. The serpent sensed weakness. It coiled, preparing for a final strike. "Now!" Taijin shouted. Professor Krell activated the emergency containment system he had been preparing. Energy barriers sprang up around the serpent, channeling it into a smaller containment area. The creature thrashed and fought, but the barriers held. Taijin collapsed, breathing hard, blood seeping through his clothes. The students were safe. All 12 of them, plus his team. Nobody had died. Nobody was even seriously hurt except him. Jiwon ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "You idiot. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Taijin said, wincing. "And everyone's safe. That's what matters." Medical teams arrived, treating everyone. Taijin's injuries were painful but not life-threatening. Broken ribs, lacerations, exhaustion. He would heal. The rescue was broadcast across the institute. Students from every species watched as the quiet, limping human had led a team into danger and brought everyone home alive. They saw him face a creature that could have killed him with one strike, and they saw him win through skill, intelligence, and bravery. The perception of humans shifted in that moment. Not weak, not primitive, different, dangerous when necessary, but choosing peace when possible. 2 days later, Ambassador Takora held a ceremony in the Grand Hall. She awarded Taijin and his team commendations for bravery and cooperation between species. This rescue demonstrates what the Council hopes to achieve, she announced. Different species, different abilities working together toward a common goal.
Taijin showed us that humanity's greatest strength is not their capacity for violence, but their ability to choose mercy even when violence would be easier. The hall erupted in applause.
Human students cried with pride. Alien students stood and cheered. Even Professor Krell applauded, his prejudice finally broken by the truth he could no longer deny. After the ceremony, Yunwu found Taijin sitting alone on an observation deck, looking at the stars. "May I join you?" Yunwu asked. "Please?" They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I've been thinking," Yunwu said, "about what you said, about choosing peace. I spent my whole life believing that strength meant domination, that my species' warrior history made us superior. And now I think real strength is what you showed. Having the power to hurt someone and choosing not to. Having the ability to kill and choosing to save instead.